exactly where the problem is. It's not the system. Clearly, it's you. It's us. We're the trader. The weakest point in any trading system is the trader. Isn't that unfortunate? But also the most important part to any trading system is also the trader. The folks that use discretion to figure out when to size appropriately, when to go heavy and when not to go heavy, that person driving the ship is more consequential to where that ship ends up than the ship itself. Okay, you got a great boat. Who's driving the boat? The driver of the strategy is oftentimes more important. I'll give you guys a shitty strategy, which I don't even know if I have in my arsenal because we just don't even do that. But if I give folks a shitty strategy, but with great risk management, personal discipline, let's say emotional control and impulse control, you'd probably make a lot of money. Okay, by the way, market is at that scalp entry for the 88. This is on the Oanda chart, just a heads up. So if you guys were looking for these buy positions, I think we're going to get a scalp here. So let me show you guys how this would look. First, I'm going to enter, let's do I'm going to pick a random number, let's say 30 contracts here. Okay, now I'm going to pause my screen. Get over here, tradeovate.com. Go ahead and log into Tradeovate. Exactly where the problem is. Okay. So I entered a tester entry. I'm going to be saving my ammo because I don't want to enter my full position right now in case this thing goes into drawdown. So the daily trend is bearish. If we look at the consolidation range over here, we look at this consolidation range, the market fakes down first and then comes up. We have a beautiful three drive pattern here at the very top. This is a very common distribution pattern. And then we have that sell off. Okay, so here's the previous area of structure. We're going to do the 88.6 scalps like we're doing right now. All right, now the neckline is right here. And we closed below that zone. We closed below both of these areas of support, showing that this is either like a duck duck goose scenario where the market just grabbed liquidity. But because I'm looking at this like where is phase one? Where is the accumulation phase first? This is the accumulation phase. We did have a false flag to the downside. Then obviously we had the liquidity grab to the upside. Now we're in deep profits on this trade. Okay, beautiful rejection so far. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rejection so far. I'm actually going to adjust my stops. By the way, we do not need our stop loss at the extension on this one. If the market does come down and wick, then we'll just jump out of the trade and re-enter later. Okay, we're running about 22, 23 points on this trade. TP1 is sitting at the 421 level right here, so about 20-ish points away. Pretty good. Chart Addicts members, if you guys took this long position, please put something in the chats. Let me know your entry. And of course, specify the platform that you took the trade on so I can cross-reference your entry with that price. By the way, I'm not sure what the hell's happening right here on YouTube. Seems to be like some issues. So if we are showing up on YouTube, let me know. If everything is good on YouTube, let me know. Okay, so let's take a listen. Again, we have the Winklevoss twins here, the original founders of Facebook, those twins from that social network movie. And then David Sachs, one of the co-founders of PayPal, and Yammer and a few other companies. Now he runs Craft Ventures, which is a SaaS venture capital company. And he's one of the four co-hosts of the All In podcast, as well as the crypto czar for the Trump administration. So let's take a listen. It's going to be a pretty interesting convo. Just a bunch of Silicon Valley billionaires who got into the crypto space and were there early, just chatting it up on stage. Pretty cool dynamic to see here. and it's a very informed opinion. So I'm looking forward to this. Shout out to Bitcoin Conference for making this publicly available. I think that's really cool. It's giving me a little bit of inspiration for the FX Summit to maybe do the same thing, kind of make it more publicly available because I really do appreciate this thing being just free on YouTube.
Welcome. Thanks for having us. So I think the last time the three of us were at an event together was in March at the Crypto Summit at the White House. And I think, Tyler, you mentioned that a year
How's the audio, folks? Good stuff, Christine. I'm guessing on Apex or on what platform?
before that, you thought it was much more likely that you'd be in the jailhouse than the White House. That's where crypto was back then.
Biggie Small says, "Good morning, Roy. I finally budgeted enough for the masterclass. I'll see you on Friday." Everybody say W Biggie Smalls in the chat. It'll be the best money you've ever spent. We've all saved money up to try to buy something that we wanted and like always kind of worry, okay, what if I don't like it? And what if I just spend all this money? I can promise you one thing, brother, or your money back, that this class is going to change your life and it's going to be more than what you bargained for. So I hope you're excited. Looking forward to seeing you on Friday.
This is true.
That was the line of the
And sheesh. All right, guys, I'm securing partial profits. I'm going to go ahead and pause my screen share real quick. I'm going to secure partial profits on the TradingView simulator thing. I'll just like leave it open. On Tradeovate, I'm going to close fuck the partial profits, guys. I'm closing my whole trade. I'm out. Okay, I got it. 45 points. It's not the craziest thing in the world. This is good enough. 5 minutes to make some money. Come on. Come on, people. 5 minutes to make some money. Look at this. Let's get back to this chart. Look at this. TP1 just got hit. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Look at this entry. Wow. 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 Damn. God is good. Put W God in the chat, bro. God is good, LLC. I'm just going to put one word here for the members. I'm going to put textbook because literally this is about as textbook as it's going to get. Christine, we out.
And I think the president appreciated that because he similarly was facing lawfare a year ago when his political enemies were trying to put him in prison for 700 years. And so I think he really understood the plight of the
T, I'm out. We hit TP1. I'm good. Taking this money, walking away. Alhamdulillah.
crypto community because they were being subjected to the same kind of unfair persecution that he was.
Well said. Yeah, I think a year ago, this time of year, I think the president was still a candidate. He was engulfed in lawfare. Biden was apparently sharp as a tack. JD Vance was still a senator. And then something really remarkable happened.
And like obviously the war on crypto, and we can go into the details, but Operation Choke Point 2.0. How many bank accounts did we lose?
How many what?
Bank accounts did we lose?
Oh, we were losing a bank account every other week in the year of 2023. And we were down to literally our last bank account for wires and last bank account for ACH. And if we had lost either one of those, it would have been game over. So that's how close Pocahontas got to taking us out.
But okay, so I think it's really important to go back in time a year because it's hard to imagine it's easy to forget how bleak it was. There's the war on crypto, there's Operation Choke Point, there's all this stuff happening. But then one thing happened, two things really, but one thing. You and Chamath courageously hosted a dinner for President Trump at your house in San Francisco, in the heart of enemy territory. And I think that really started a preference cascade in Silicon Valley.
So David, what did you think about that event?
Yeah, this was June 6th of last year. I remember that date because that happens to be D-Day. And it felt like this was kind of a big event in San Francisco. it was right on the heels of that whole sham trial that they put the president through, where I don't know if you guys remember this, it feels like so long ago, but the Democrats tried to brand President Trump with that whole convicted felon label as the way they were going to try and win the election. And he had to spend a couple of months kind of locked up in this courtroom in this, in this sham for the past couple of months. And so in any event, he on the heels of that, he came out to California and to do our event, and then he went to LA and did a couple other events, and no one knew exactly how he would be received, especially in liberal San Francisco. And for the week before the event, the media in San Francisco had tried to gin up protesters to show up, but all along the motorcade, when the president came to eventually arrive at my house, there were demonstrators all along the side of the road, but they weren't anti-Trump. They were all pro-Trump.
Yes,
And,
true.
and thousands of them. And the first thing the president said when he got out of his car was, "Am I in the right city?"
Right.
And we knew right away that there was some huge vibe shift going on, because all the energy was pro-Trump, even though the Democrats had tried to do this whole convicted felon hoax. So right then we knew something was changing.
Yes, definitely. And then I think that your dinner was in June, and then President Trump keynoted this conference a month later last summer in Nashville. And I just remember I was in the audience for that.
Wait, before we get to that, can I tell a funny story about at the dinner?
Please.
So the president, I mean, he's hilarious, as you guys experienced. And so he basically did, a speech at our house. We had about 100 people there. And it was kind of like having a Trump rally in your living room, and he would go up there and he would just, talk to us. And he would pick people out of the crowd and just start, saying things. And for some reason, he took a shine to Tyler and Cameron right away, because he picked you guys out. And he said, as I recall, something like, "I know you guys really created Facebook. I know it was really you guys who did that. And yeah, I know you didn't win that court case, but it's okay, because you guys got dealt a lot of cards. You're very rich, very handsome. You got dealt a lot of cards."
Supermodels with big brains, right?
And I said to I said to you guys that, so do you know President Trump? And you said, no, that was like the first time you had met him. So amazingly, he just picked you guys out, and he knew all this stuff and just started riffing. So in any event.
Yeah, and,
really.
and that was, I think that was his like 5th event that day. And he had started at like 5 in the morning in Florida. And by the time he got to SF, that was, I think, he had probably already had a very long day. And I remember, I mean, he just kept going. I mean, he would have stayed all night probably if his staff hadn't said to leave, which is so different and so authentic than other politicians who sort of come in, mail it in, get the money and go. And Trump really engaged and he really listened. And I have to hand it to the media, because they did a really good job. I mean, you meet the guy in person, you're like, I knew it was BS that the media was attacking him, but still, like, this guy is so different than the person that is portrayed out there, and the diff was massive.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, his work ethic is just incredible. I think that day he had woken up at, must have been like 3 a.m. our time in Florida, done a bunch of meetings there, then flown to Arizona. He did a rally in Arizona earlier that day, then flew to our place in San Francisco. And then after our event, he flew down to LA for another event that he had the next day. And he could have left. He stayed 2 hours longer than he had to. He really spent the time with everyone. It was really incredible. And he was very interested in what everyone had to say. And I would say that probably 1/3 of the people at that dinner were folks in the Bitcoin or crypto community. And I think it was maybe one of the first times that he had heard this message about how unfairly that, all the crypto people were being treated by the Gensler SEC. And I think it definitely registered with him. And then, a month later, he ended up speaking at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville. So I think this is all part of the the process of him just listening and understanding the concerns of the community, how unfairly they're being treated. And like I said, I think it really resonated with him because he had also been subjected to all this lawfare.
Yeah, and so when he came to the conference in last summer, and I was in the audience, and the energy in the room was just tremendous. People were so excited, but the line that got the biggest rise was when he said, "I'm going to fire Gary Gensler," and it's getting a good rise today. And it was such a good line that he ended up saying it again, and the crowd erupted more. And so he did fire Gary Gensler. And so I think one of the big themes is promises made, promises kept, and you're part of that, David. So big thank you to David, who's the crypto AI czar with this administration. So it'd be great to hear sort of what you've been up to. And I feel like this administration is moving at the speed of a startup, which is something that you know a lot about, but it's moving at breakneck speed. It came in with a plan, with promises. Oh, and by the way, the other big point from last summer was free Ross. And
Definitely a huge campaign promise. So, we just had the first 100 days in the administration, and it's just incredible how much the president's gotten done just in the area of crypto. It's really amazing. I mean, I never do this, but there was so much that's happened in the last 100 days. I have to pull out my cheat sheet. I hope that's okay.
yeah, how much time do we have? This may take a little while.
Let me just highlight a few of the most important things. So first of all, you're right that on the president's first full day in office, he pardoned Ross Ulbricht. So that was 2 days later, he signed a week 1 executive order to promote U.S. leadership in digital assets. That EO prohibited CBDCs. It ordered the end of Operation Choke Point 2.0, and it created our President's Working Group on Digital Assets that I'll get to in a second. In March, he established the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, which treats Bitcoin as a reserve asset of the United States for the first time. And then we also hosted the first digital assets summit at the White House, which is the first time that, digital assets or crypto has been, treated in that way as an industry that's arrived. There's also been a ton of work that's been done on the sort of agency rulemaking side. The president rescinded the IRS's DeFi broker rule. We rescinded SAB 121, which effectively prevented banks from getting into custody of Bitcoin. The DOJ ended its regulation by prosecution approach, which ended these aggressive legal actions against digital asset firms without telling them what the rules are. I mean, we had this approach under Gensler where he would say, well, just come in and talk to us. I heard all these stories from crypto founders that they were told, well, just come in and talk to us. And then there'd be someone from the enforcement division in these meetings writing down everything they'd say. And then the next day they would get a Wells notice and the prosecution would start as well. Who would want to, that people learned very quickly not to go in and talk to the SEC. So the DOJ has ended that. The SEC has established a crypto task force to provide regulatory clarity. Hester Peirce has done an amazing job with this. The Federal Reserve Board, the OCC, and FDIC have all issued favorable guidance for banks to engage in crypto-related activities, which I think is a very important step to further mainstreaming crypto adoption. And then my personal favorite is that the administration defunded the CFPB, which is Elizabeth Warren's personal regulatory agency. This was her personal goon squad to terrorize crypto companies, and that got defunded. So that's just a small sample of what's been accomplished in just the first 100 days. Is pretty incredible. And then, you heard from Senator Haggerty a minute ago what's happening on Capitol Hill. There's the stablecoin bill's about to pass, the Genius Act, and then I don't think that's going to be the end of it. I think on the heels of that, there's also a market structure bill that's coming that I think will also likely pass before August. And the point of the market structure bill is to enshrine all of the new rules that we've put in place into law so that a future Gary Gensler can't just unwind everything that we've done.
I mean, yeah, that's a tremendous list, and that's definitely larger than the amount of promises that were made. So it's promises kept and then some.
You know, there've been a couple of times where, you know, in rooting out all these insidious rules that were created over the last 4 years, some of them, you know, we've received some serious pushback, and occasionally it's had to go all the way up to the president. And what the president always says is we have to keep our promises. I mean, it really is a point of honor that he made these promises at the Bitcoin conference last year, and he has kept all of his promises. That is very important to him.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing is that strikes me is that we always want startups coming out of dorm rooms, not the boardroom of a law firm. And that's been the state of play in crypto, in our industry, in Bitcoin for the better part of the last decade. I mean, we feel like we've been building into a headwind for a decade, and now finally we're building with a bit of a tailwind. And what does that look like? And I always view the Bitcoin price as a proxy for how early it is. And I think we think that, you know, Bitcoin is obviously orange is the new gold. So Bitcoin is gold 2.0. And that's been true since day one. And so at $100,000 Bitcoin, that's exciting. But if you take 21 million into the above ground market price of gold, really it should be $1 million a coin easily, and then some. So we often talk about baseball games as being sort of the metric for how early things are, and we're literally in the first inning. And let me tell you, this game's going to overtime. So buckle up.
Well, you know, I don't want to measure, you know, what we accomplish exactly through price levels. I guess I want to measure it through innovation levels. But I will say that I did notice that Bitcoin just hit a new all-time high the other day, and that was great to see.
Yeah. I don't think it's a coincidence.
It's not, yes. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we see that blockchain, Bitcoin, crypto, this is the financial system of the future. And we want this innovation happening in the United States. We don't want it driven offshore. That's basically what was happening before, is because under the Biden administration, and as we all know, Elizabeth Warren had the auto pen, all this innovation was being driven offshore. It was being driven to other countries. And that's not the American way.
With all the interesting things that David is saying, the most interesting thing that they're not saying is how insane it is that the greatest trading stream in all of YouTube only has this many live viewers right now. It's unbelievable. We get on here, provide some value, give free trade ideas. There's people with group chats of 100,000, 50,000, 40,000. They lose. But if you guys go back, watch the recordings of all the live streams, we've been on a pretty hot fucking streak. All right, I'm pretty excited about today's pretty quick money today. And I'm still in with a contract because I did re-enter when we hit the bottom. All right, just going to say this truthfully. I didn't want to encourage anybody else to give their money back or to get back in the markets. You know, this is more of a personal decision, but I still have that one contract. I'm going to close it again. I just doubled up my profits for the day, just taking the same exact trade twice, same entry, getting out at TP1. So if you guys are on YouTube, just hit like and subscribe, drop a comment, share it, do something. It'll help the YouTube algo just kind of push this thing out to more folks. But yeah, also if you guys have trading friends or people that you know and you're not inviting them on these streams, then you're just being selfish. All right, because they should be winning too. So if you guys want to learn how to do this for yourself so that you guys don't need to come and listen to me, you just do it for fun. But you guys want to learn how to do this for yourself, we're doing a free webinar for traders tonight. The link is in the description. It's the top link in the description at the bottom of this video. Click it, put your name and email, come change your life. We'll see you guys tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. If you guys made money, just shout out in the chat how much money you made, or you can do risk and reward, you can do pips, you can do monetary gain, but just let me see what the profits are for the chat, for the folks that are paying attention here.
I mean, the American way is always to be the innovator, the leader in technology. And we want this financial revolution happening in the United States. We want to be leading in this. We don't want to be driving it offshore. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I think the US capital markets are the most vibrant, deep, liquid markets on the planet. And
Jensen, is this you? Or is this John? This is Jensen. I'm out at TP1. Bro, how much money is this? Yo, Jensen, bro, save some profits for the rest of us, man. Oh, he's not even in the chat anymore. You have to get back to work. Dude, 500, 500, 500, 500, 500. Oh, yeah, I can't count that high. I'm borderline dyslexic. Good fucking work. People take notes, not about like, oh, I made this much. Like I kind of get into this trap too of the comparison, being like, damn, I made 2 grand, but like so and so made 7. It's like the thing. Dude, if you take yourself out of that every single time and just ask yourself, first, be happy for the squad, be happy for your friends. I'm very happy for you, Jensen. And then the second question is, what is it? Like, what is he doing? Is it the number of accounts? Is it the entries? Where is the entry? How did he pull this off? And then the more that you guys learn, you use every single day or every trade as a learning opportunity. So you take this and you figure out what happened here. You're only a couple of weeks away from recreating the same results. Okay. And if you got to save some money to get more accounts, that's different. But when you're deliberately paying attention and learning, your learning curve, the time to success gets shrunk, gets shortened. You get there way faster, as it's supposed to be. So make sure you guys are learning and doing and being deliberate with your trading.
a lot of that, the stage for that was set 100 years ago when securities laws were first passed.
Big shout out to John too. John, congratulations. John took the master class, been crushing it since. W John. Good stuff, guys.
In 34, and I think we have this opportunity now to set for the next century laws that enshrine the right to self-custody, peer-to-peer transactions. Not that long ago in 1933, FDR passed an executive order that confiscated gold. You actually couldn't hoard gold or hodl it, in our parlance, and you actually had to turn it in, and that was less than 100 years.
That's how you know these guys went to Harvard or whatever the fuck they went to. He said in our parlance, which just means like, yeah, in our language, we would say that we hodled it, like in crypto speak. He said in our parlance. But that's why they took Facebook from you.
Years
All right.
ago. So really, I think we're on the cusp of enshrining these human rights,
Beautiful.
this right to property rights, digital property rights in Bitcoin. And I'm very excited. And I think the work that you are doing and this administration's doing is setting up that next century of innovation. So again, definitely very grateful for all that work that you've done, David, there.
Well, I've noticed a number of states are acting on the Bitcoin Bill of Rights, and I think it would be good for the federal government to do something as well. And I think we can incorporate those concepts, the right to self-custody, the right to financial freedom in the what's called the market structure bill. So I hope we can do that.
Yes, that would be great. Yeah, and
Is there any, I'm curious to ask you guys, like, is there anything else that you guys think we should be doing? I mean, I'm kind of worried that as cryptos are, by the way, I never expected to be in government at all. I mean, I'm, like you guys, I hosted that dinner for the president of June of last year, and I never could have predicted that it would end up with, me taking a role in government and being on the stage with you guys here now. But I guess, things, we've been moving so fast to, correct all these things, in terms of the legislation that's moving on Capitol Hill, in terms of rooting out all the regulations, the agencies and departments. I think by August, we might have achieved like the crypto agenda in Washington, I think. I mean, what else are we missing? Like, what else should we be doing next? What would you guys like to see? What else is on your wish list? I'm curious here what else do you guys would like to see?
do you want to go first, Tyler? Or?
Now you're,
Something about capital gains tax. I think it'd be great if the US government started proactively acquiring Bitcoin.
What do you guys think about that?
That's about as big a rise as Fire Gary Gensler getting last summer.
So the executive order establishing the strategic Bitcoin reserve does allow the government to purchase more if it can be done in a budget neutral way. So specifically, if either the Commerce Department or the Treasury Department can figure out how to fund it without adding to the debt, then they are allowed to create those programs. So if we can convince Howard Lutnick, who's the Commerce Secretary, or Scott Besson, who's the Treasury Secretary, to buy some, and they can figure out how to fund it, without a new tax or without adding to the debt, then maybe find the money from some other program that's not using it, then we could potentially acquire more Bitcoin.
Wow, love it. That sounds.
So I can't promise anything, but there is a pathway to doing that. And the question is just, can we get either the Treasury Department or the Commerce Department to get excited about that? Because if they do, and they can figure out how to fund it, they actually do have presidential authorization already.
Cool. So how should we get their attention to do that?
Can you guys get their attention?
Raise your hands if you want the US government to start acquiring Bitcoin. All right. Do you think we should put the tariff money to buy Bitcoin? I think I heard from somebody. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
buy the dip. Buy Bitcoin with the tariff money. Cool. So what do you think so one of the things, David, I think also is the AI crossover with Bitcoin, and I think talking about building like financial infrastructure in the US and how that's an issue of national security and innovation. And Bitcoin mining, for example, the GPUs, those are the same chips that power AI. And I think it's really cool that they're all sort of meeting together. And how do you think about like the next 100 days or the next couple of years?
Well, definitely one of the common denominators between AI and crypto or Bitcoin is that you do need energy, you need power, you need electricity. You need electricity to power GPUs for AI data centers, and you need it for Bitcoin ASICs to generate hash power. So this is something that we definitely need to do more of in the United States. We need a lot more power to basically fuel this future of AI and crypto. And I think the president definitely got us off on the right foot by, with drill, baby, drill. He definitely wants to unleash oil and gas production in the US. So that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Also making it a lot easier to permit new energy production, new pipelines, and then also permitting the creation of new data centers. I think we want most of the new, let's call it AI compute.
All right, so price is getting stuck here at the first take profit level. So the more resistance that gets formed here, if the market cannot break above, and this is going to be the point where the market turns back around and kind of continues bearish for the day, which really is the momentum for the day. If we just see how aggressive that bearish drop was. So if you haven't already protected the trades, it's not financial advice. Do your own research, do your own analysis, and of course, follow your plan. But this is where I would be trailing stop losses and just kind of trailing on the way up. Now, if you look at where's the market likely to retest before it continues, you would see this previous impulse. We would either get a double bottom, right? Or we would get a 50% retest of this candle. So what I would try to do is put my trailing stops right below that 50% mark. That way, even if it does wick down and continue, I can stay in that trade. Now, I'm out on my live accounts. Right now, I'm just sort of paper trading this. Obviously, it's a learning experience. Keep the eye on the trade. Maybe some of you guys are still in this. And so I'm just going to be kind of walking through those decisions as they pop up into my head, as the market develops more data, more information, prints more candles. I'll be able to advise you guys, not advise, but I'll be able to demonstrate to you guys what I would do in that situation if I was still in. Now, the biggest lesson is that I'm out on my live accounts. So like everything that we're doing here as a learning experience, that's cool. But if you look at, okay, what did I actually do with with real money, with not real money, you guys get what I mean, the prop money, but with skin in the game and with something on the line. And so that should be the biggest learning point, which is like, okay, you got out. Huh? Take notes.
And most of the new hash power to be in the US if we can. I mean, it would be nice for there to be more hash power in the United States. Just like we want there to be a lot more, AI data centers. So I think, we're going to try and make it a lot easier to again, like build, beyond drill, baby, drill, we need to build, baby, build. And it just needs to be a lot easier in the United States.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like energy is so important for the growth of these technologies. And in the last Bitcoin cycle,
Also, I went ahead and put the link to tonight's webinar. You guys can get a sneak peek at this strategy, how we trade, how to look at NASDAQ, kind of an introductory level. If you're an experienced trader or you're an aspiring or novice trader, this is going to be relevant to you guys tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. I put the link in the YouTube comments, so you guys can just head over there, click that link. It's a one-stop solution. This will get your trading up and running. So highly recommend it. Obviously, the trades speak for themselves. We just get on here and just let the results speak for themselves. So eventually, hopefully you guys are paying attention enough and you realize that you could save yourself thousands of dollars and years of time wasted trading by just learning a system that's this consistent. Maybe you can do it better. Maybe you will do it better. Only one way to find out. All right, send the link out to some friends, bring some people on, and we're definitely going to do a pretty big promo code tonight for the masterclass if you guys show up. So highly recommend getting on tonight's webinar.
there was people sort of talking about the energy consumption and carbon footprint of Bitcoin mining, which is pretty silly because it was still a fraction of the traditional financial system and the internet. And I think one of the things we probably want to watch out for is people trying to use ESG to try and attack Bitcoin from that vector and just, call it out and make sure we don't get Greta pilled over here and deindustrialize.
Yeah. And, I just got back from a trip to the Middle East with the president, and he did something like $3 trillion of new deals with the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar. And I think the president's been very focused on getting, net new investment in the United States, including for data centers. Also helping the American technology stack spread internationally and become the standard. So for example, we just did a deal in the UAE where they're going to be building a huge campus for American AI companies, cloud service providers, hyperscalers to build new data centers. And then they're going to make a matching investment in the United States in the build out of data centers. So this is the kind of stuff that the president's looking at. He wants to encourage investment in the US. He wants to encourage the build out of data centers. He wants to encourage new energy sources. And just generally, he's on the side of innovation and the future. Whereas if you look at the Biden administration, they were really doing everything they could to stop all of those things. I mean, you had the Gensler SEC, you had all the restrictions on oil and gas. They were even alienating our Gulf state allies who want to invest in America and they want to be on the American tech stack. And the Biden administration was doing everything they could to limit the export of American technology, forcing those countries to potentially choose Huawei. It just didn't make any sense at all. So I feel like what we have in Washington right now is just a sea change. It's just a total.
All right, numbers real quick. So there's the 15, 30-minute model, which starts right here. You guys can see the support level. And so on the bigger picture, this is the model we're looking at, correct? And what we're trading right now is this retest up, probably if I had to guess, probably 60-ish%, 50, 60%, a lower high, and then we're going to get a drop. That's the bigger picture here. Now, if we look at the pre-session consolidation, I need to ask you guys a quick pop quiz here. What was the direction of the first fake? This is the pre-session consolidation. It started at 6:30 a.m. So this thing is kind of consolidating all of London, all of London, all of London, 6 a.m. I'm guessing there was some news that came out between 6 a.m. and 6:30, kind of this 30-minute impulsive push right here. And by the way, I mean, this is the long that we're trading for the retest. But if we just look at, let me put down some zones here. We'll put down support and resistance. What was the direction of the first fake out? And let's take a look at this. What candle is this? This is the market open at 9:30 a.m. This is the 9:35 candle, 9:40, 9:45. And then by 11 a.m., we had the perfect entry. Exactly what we teach in the class. Exactly. Christine's right. And so that's why it even confirms, even though like we had a massive drop, even though we're very high, kind of in the daily range and the weekly range that we were looking at last week, that sort of like we're pretty close to that daily 88.6. The model's still showing that that fake was to one direction. So then after we had that, do we see a reversal pattern below the zone for phase 3? So I see the left shoulder here, I see head, and I see the market potentially holding this right shoulder. Okay, so as long as we hold support here, then we can see a push back inside the range. The bottom of the range is usually like your first target. The market will typically go through it if it wants to go bearish. And so this is a pretty good target to aim for. And then neutrality in the zone. I mean, obviously, as members, you guys know that we would just draw a fib from top to bottom. Let's try to get this as accurate as we can. Try to get this to line up with as many zones. I'm going to add a few more levels just to verify this fib here. Let's do 78. So the 78 is the top of the range. The 38 is the bottom of the range. This is perfect. And so if we're going to be looking at take profits, like TP1 is that fib, TP2, TP3, and TP4, that would probably be the area to look for right here for the push down. Now, this is all conditional. Again, like all this is really cool, as long as the market holds the support, and then we can sort of confirm this inverted head and shoulders. If the market breaks below this zone, right, then it'll probably reject the double bottom, come up a little bit, and then just keep dropping. And so this TP1, TP2, TP3 model is only conditional on the market holding the support. So not predictive, but more not even reactive, more responsive. I'm not reacting to the market. I'm not sitting here impulsively reacting to every candle, and I'm sure as hell not trying to predict the next move. Instead, I'm making a conditional decision, meaning I'm responding to the information the market has printed and given me instead of trying to assume. Right? So this inverted head and shoulders, the condition is an if-then statement. So if the market holds support, then there's a high probability the market hits these take profit zones. If the market holds this support, then I'll re-enter, etc. Versus the market's going to hold support. See, one of them is arrogantly predictive, which is stupid. The other one is analytically responsive, which is smart. Make sense? Responsive analysis or responsive decision making and operating versus reactive.
Comprehensive shift from being anti-innovation to being pro-innovation and being, much more future-oriented and getting all the obstacles out of the way and helping the private sector innovate. And it's really just been incredible. It's been really fun to be part of. Like I said, I never anticipated that I'd be part of this administration. I'm just a guy from Silicon Valley who hosted a dinner, and then the next thing you know, I'm helping to drive this agenda in Washington. But I think that
David, you're also one of the largest venture capital investors in America and one of the founding members of the PayPal mafia. It's like, oh, I'm just a small guy. He was about to say some bullshit like I'm just a guy from a small town. And he couldn't even. I'm just a guy from Silicon Valley who hosted a dinner at his 20,000 square foot mansion, probably bigger. Like Donald Trump gets out from the dinner that Sachs hosted, and he was like, dude, this house is ridiculous. And Trump has some of the most ridiculous real estate in the world. So for him to compliment David Sachs's house, he's the billionaire on a different level. He's like, oh, I'm just a humble guy from Silicon Valley who hosted a dinner for Trump. I had no idea I would end up in politics, even though all he talks about is politics, and he hosted a whole dinner for Trump and got all of Silicon Valley behind it. I'm not dishonest.
forces and just generally he's on the side of innovation and the future. Whereas if you look at the Biden administration, they were really doing everything they could to stop all of those things. I mean, you had the Gensler SEC, oil and gas. They were even alienating our Gulf state allies who want to invest in America and they want to be on the American tech stack. And the Biden administration was doing everything they could to limit the export of American technology, forcing those countries to potentially choose Huawei. You know, it just didn't make any sense at all. So I feel like what we have in Washington right now is just a sea change. It's just a total comprehensive shift from being anti-innovation to being pro-innovation and being, you know, much more future-oriented and getting all the obstacles out of the way and helping the private sector innovate. And it's really just been incredible. It's been really fun to be part of. Like I said, I never anticipated that I'd be part of this administration. I'm just a guy from Silicon Valley who hosted a dinner, and then the next thing you know, I'm helping to drive this agenda in Washington. But I think that it's been really incredible to be part of and see the whole thing take shape.
Yeah, well
That's awesome.
said. Thank you, David. It's hard to imagine a president, any other president, being able to do a fraction of this or accomplish that, or any administration. And we're just over 100 days. So it's pretty amazing that we still have a lot of time left.
No, it's incredible. I mean, we're basically 4 months in, so we still have, you know, over 3.5 years. So I think just what we can accomplish over the next few years is going to be really incredible. What all of you guys are going to accomplish with Bitcoin is going to be incredible, and to the moon, right?
To the moon. Right. Well said. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Awesome stuff. So obviously we have to hear it from for lack of a better term, the horse's mouth. So the folks in charge of crypto regulation and the new crypto regime of this country, which, because I've been involved in crypto since like 2014. I'll tell you, we've been waiting for this day for a long time. Did I think it would take 11 years? Honestly, kind of, yeah. But the way that it's happening is like, it was a trickle effect, and then it happened all at once, where kind of Gen X and Gen Z and millennials all got exposed to Bitcoin. And so it was kind of this silent revolution that was happening. And then as soon as there was an opportunity or an environment to basically let loose, everybody came out. How do I say it? Everybody came out the closet, the Bitcoin closet. So like JP Morgan was talking shit about Bitcoin, and Kevin O'Leary and Larry Summers, and basically anybody who was a former Treasury Secretary, who was a chief economist that consults the government, who ran some of the largest Wall Street funds, was shit talking Bitcoin as sort of like money laundering money. It was a money laundering medium. It was unpredictable. It was too volatile because of the price changes. It came with too many complications for fraud. And then all of a sudden, as soon as the environment became attractive, they all came out the closet. So JP Morgan's had a Bitcoin trading desk since 2018. Meanwhile, Jamie Dimon's at every Davos conference on CNBC talking about how Bitcoin is for money laundering. So basically I meant to say, it's not I realized this a long time ago. It's not mass adoption that is going to make or break the price of Bitcoin. It's obviously going to be that institutional liquidity that comes in, trillions of dollars or hundreds of billions of dollars. And so the regulatory environment, like the market was ready for these guys to get in, but the regulatory environment and clarity wasn't there. They didn't know the rules of the game, so they can't put their clients' money to work. But now that, let's say, BlackRock or JP Morgan or Fidelity or whoever you guys' 401k provider is at your job, if they now have the ability to add a Bitcoin product to your investment stack, they will. If there's going to be a Bitcoin ETF that really kind of dominates the market, and they're able to just put a percentage in the Bitcoin ETF, they're going to get a cut. Everyone's going to get a cut. But that just means every 2 weeks from everybody's paycheck, there's going to be a percentage going into Bitcoin. Now, ETFs are very different because you're not actually buying Bitcoin, but it still boosts the underlying price. Kind of just give you guys an idea of like how an ETF works. Let's take a gold ETF. Let's say GLD. GLD is one of the biggest indices to track gold. So pros and cons of an index. This is kind of like an investing 101 in case you guys want some financial knowledge here. So if you own the underlying asset like gold, you deal with the risk and the benefits. The risk is physical gold is hard to move around if you actually have a significant amount of it. It's not as easy to sell. It kind of does fluctuate in price, so you'll have to wait for the right moment to go and sell it. If you have to flee the country or whatever, like there's pros and cons to owning the underlying asset. Now, no one can take it away from you. You actually own it. You're the custodian of that asset. And so it's your money if you hold the physical gold. Now, what happens if you don't want the risk or the responsibility of storing or keeping this gold? You don't want to pay for a safety deposit box. You don't want to put it in your safe and then just risk it. So what you can do is you can buy something that tracks the price of gold. So you have like the actual asset over here, gold. And then you have something else over here like GLD, which is an index that is one that basically is supposed to mimic the movement of gold, except the custodian is whatever company is issuing this index, okay, or this ETF. So for Bitcoin, if there's one of the biggest Bitcoin ETFs is GBTC from a company called Grayscale. All right, I love Grayscale because they publicly publish all of their holdings in percentages and in total absolute values. And that's kind of what I used at the beginning, even now, to figure out the proportions of how much Bitcoin versus Ethereum versus XRP I'm holding. I kind of just look at their adjustments and I'm like, all right, well, they cut their Ethereum down from 40% holdings down to 30. I'm gonna do the same. Shout out to Grayscale, one of the largest institutional holders of Bitcoin and definitely the largest in America, besides maybe Marathon. Anyways, they have an ETF for Bitcoin called GBTC. Okay, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust Bitcoin ETF. And so you get all the benefit of the upside of holding the asset without the physical risk or without the risk, market risk, duration risk. Well, you still get duration risk, but you don't have any of like the physical risk of holding the asset. Most people don't know how to store Bitcoin. They're going to forget their seed phrase. Most of you guys don't even know what a seed phrase is. And it's 2025. And so the idea that you could just lose all your money because you spelled one word wrong, it's a pretty big deal. Okay, so instead of that, if you want to sign up to like Coinbase, there's the benefit is that if you lose your password or whatever it is, you can reach out to them. There's a two-factor authentication. You can hit the forgot password button and actually get your money back. Now, the only reason you can do that is because they are now the custodian legally of your money. Same with a bank, by the way. When you go to give the bank money, the delusion is that they're a depository institution holding your money for you. If that was true, they wouldn't pay you a 0.001% interest to keep your money in that account. You guys know how they have the APY yield on your checking and your savings. They give you like 1 penny a year or something. It's like there's a scene in Breaking Bad. This is a odd example, but Saul Goodman, the lawyer, he's out there in the desert on his knees, handcuffed, and Walt and Jesse have a gun to him. They got the ski mask on. Okay, and then so Walt starts coughing, and so the guy on the ground with his, the lawyer on the ground, he realizes who it is, and he's like, "Bro, who the fuck is? You're not gonna shoot me, bro." He gets up and he starts doing his lawyering. He starts kind of like he's got the gift of gab. He tells him, "Is to put $1 in my pocket real quick. That way, you guys are now entitled to attorney-client privilege, which means that whatever you tell your lawyer, they can't go out there and disclose." So it's kind of the same thing with the bank. So like they put $1 in his pocket. He's like, all right, now I'm technically your lawyer. And so now everything that we say stays between us. It's performative. It's for show. And so the banks will give you a 1% or 0.001% as like put $1 in my pocket. Let's just pretend like, you know. Now, the only reason that somebody would give you a percentage return on your money is if you're loaning it to them. So you are not actually depositing your money at your bank. You're actually loaning the money to the bank. You are a creditor. And if the bank goes out of business and it goes into bankruptcy, you'll notice where you are in the debt stack, where you are in the repayment stack. Are you a customer or client, or are you a creditor? You'll figure out pretty soon whether you were actually the owner of your money. So the second you give it to your bank, it's not your money anymore. What they do is they put a debt on their liability side and say, we owe so-and-so this money now. Isn't that crazy? So now with Bitcoin, with GBTC, when you're buying an alternative to the underlying asset or a security alternative, a derivative or an index or an ETF, if you're going to go through a third-party platform, you are essentially giving custody to whatever that platform is. So Coinbase now owns your money. If Coinbase goes under in the bankruptcy proceedings, you are listed as a creditor. Everybody who got into Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX, they learned this the hard way or the easy way, depending on how, where they were in the tech stack. Not the tech stack, the debt stack, excuse me. So anyways, those are the two options. You can buy the underlying, you can buy Tesla stock, or you can buy like an index that tracks, all of these different instruments. The pros and cons is, do you actually want to own your money? Which means you'll have to learn a bit more about how to store it, keep it, pay taxes on it, etc. Or give the responsibility to a custodian, accept the risk, only give it to a custodian that you think is going to be around for 50 years. But in the case that anything happens, it's not your money. I learned this with MT Gox. I gave not your keys, not your coins. I had 2 Bitcoins and MT Gox got hacked 2016. Those 2 Bitcoin completely gone. Now with Bitcoin trading at 110 grand, that's about $220,000 out the window. I got a notice that they were doing a big lawsuit, that they were trying to give back the money and shit like that. I don't know if I'm going to get, I'm not optimistic about it, but I do hard wallets. I have an Exodus wallet as well, which is it's an offline digital wallet. So it's not like a physical USB drive. It's a software you download on the computer, you put in the passwords, and you can access your accounts. But it's not online. So it's not on the internet, which means that if there was an outage or something like that, or if I had to move somewhere else and I needed to access it, I can. Okay. So this trade's likely going to finish playing out the second we get off the stream. That's kind of our luck. So I need to find a way. Actually, we do have a way. Go join our public Discord, gosh darn it, and then subscribe in the email below so I can show you guys the before and afters. Because every time, within 5 minutes of me ending this stream, we get a massive candle and the trade plays out and I look like a genius. I'm Warren Buffett on here and nobody ever gets to see it. It's like the tree fell and no one was around. Like, did it make us? So subscribe. There's a link to the webinar in the YouTube comments. Members, congratulations on another successful trading day. If you didn't trade today, stand with your fucking decision. No doubt, none of this, oh, what if and what if. You gotta move the fuck on. We're crushing it. And we're gonna crush it again. Confidence is knowing that you can do it again. It takes confidence to walk away. It takes confidence to take a day off. I had to learn this the hard way. It takes confidence knowing no matter what happens, the next trade that shows up, I'll be good. I can find it. I can catch it. This is not the last trade that'll ever exist. All right, I'm that good. So that's the confidence it takes to really succeed at trading, to have that calm, cool demeanor. I'll catch you guys later. We'll pick back up in the chats. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Take it easy.